Hey, welcome to Legal Readings, where I read your cases for you so you don't have to. Please subscribe and tell your friends so I can keep doing this and read you these with better audio and also get you the cases you need. This case is pretty long, so if I mess up, I don't know how to edit audio. So I'm just going to stop, fix it, and keep moving on, so don't be too mean in the comments. Let's get started. Leonard v. Pepsico, Inc. Plaintiff brought this action seeking, among other things, specific performance for an alleged offer of a Harrier jet featured in a television advertisement for defendant's Pepsi Stuff promotion. Defendant has moved for summary judgment for the reasons stated below. Defendant's motion is granted. This case arises out of a promotional campaign conducted by defendant, the producer and distributor of the soft drinks Pepsi and Diet Pepsi. The promotion, entitled Pepsi Stuff, encouraged the consumers to collect Pepsi points from specifically marked packages of Pepsi or Diet Pepsi and redeem these points for merchandise featuring the Pepsi logo. Plaintiff saw the Pepsi Stuff commercial that he contends constituted an offer of a Harrier jet. Because whether the television commercial constituted an offer is central to the question in this case, the court will describe the commercial in detail. The commercial opens upon an idyllic suburban morning, where the chirping birds of the sun-dampled trees welcomes the paper boy on his morning route. As the newspaper hits the stoop of a conventional two-story house, the tattoo of a military drum introduces the subtitle, Monday, 7:58 a.m. The stirring strains of the martial air marks the appearance of a well-cuffed teenager preparing to leave for school, dressed in a shirt emblazoned with the Pepsi logo, a red, white, and blue ball. While the teenager confidently preens the military drum roll, again sounds the subtitle, T-shirt, 75 Pepsi points. Scrolls across the screen. Bursting from his room, the teenager strides down the hallway wearing a leather jacket. The drum roll sounds again as the subtitle, Leather Jacket, 1,450 Pepsi points appears. The teenager opens the door of his house and, unfazed by the glare of the early morning sunshine, puts on a pair of sunglasses. The drum roll then accompanies the subtitle, Shades, 175 Pepsi points. A voiceover then intones, introducing the Pepsi Stuff catalog, as the camera focuses on the cover of the catalog. The scene then shifts to three young boys sitting in front of the high school building. The boy in the middle is intent on his Pepsi Stuff catalog, while the boy on the other side are drinking Pepsi. The three boys gaze in awe at an object rushing overhead as a military march builds to a crescendo. The Harrier jet is not yet visible, but the observers sense the presence of a mighty plane as the extreme winds generated by the flight creates paper maelstrom in the classroom devoted to an otherwise dull physics lesson. Finally, the Harrier jet swings into view and lands by the side of the school building, next to the bicycle racks. Several students run for cover, and the velocity of the wind strips one hapless faculty member down to his underwear. While the faculty member is being deprived of his dignity, a voiceover announces, "Now the more Pepsi you drink, the more great stuff you're gonna get." The teenager opens the cockpit of the fighter and can be seen helmetless holding a Pepsi. Looking very pleased with himself, the teenager exclaims, "Sure beats the bus!" And the military drum roll sounds a final time as the following words appear. Harrier fighter jet, 7 million Pepsi points. A second later, the following appears in more stylized script. Drink Pepsi, get stuff. With that message, the music and the commercial end with a triumphant flourish. Inspired by this commercial, the plaintiff set out to obtain a Harrier jet. Plaintiff explains that he is the typical Pepsi generation. He is young, has an adventurous spirit, and the notion of obtaining a Harrier jet appealed to him enormously. Plaintiff consulted the Pepsi Stuff catalog. The catalog features youth dressed in Pepsi Stuff regalia or enjoying Pepsi Stuff accessories such as blue shades, as if you need another reason to look forward to a sunny day, Pepsi teas, bag of balls, and Pepsi phone cards. The catalog specifies the number of Pepsi points required to obtain promotional merchandise. The catalog includes an order form which lists on one side 53 items of Pepsi Stuff merchandise redeemable for Pepsi points. The conspicuous absence of the order form is any entry description of a Harrier jet. The amount of Pepsi points required to obtain the listed merchandise ranges from 15 to 3,300. It should be noted that the plaintiff objects to the implication that because an item was not shown in the catalog, it is unavailable. The rear fold-out pages of the catalog contains the directions for redeeming Pepsi Point for merchandise. These directions note that the merchandise may be ordered only with the original order form. The catalog notes that in the event that the consumer lacks enough Pepsi points to obtain the desired item, additional Pepsi points may be purchased for 10 cents each. However, at least 15 original Pepsi points must accompany each order. Although the plaintiff initially set out to collect 7 million Pepsi points by consuming Pepsi products, it soon became clear to him that he would not be able to buy enough Pepsi to collect the necessary Pepsi points fast enough. Reevaluating his strategy, the plaintiff focused on the first time on the package materials in Pepsi Stuff promotion, and realized that buying Pepsi points would be a more promising option. Through acquaintances, plaintiff ultimately raised $700,000. B. Plaintiff's effort to redeem the alleged offer. On or about March 27, 1996, the plaintiff submitted an order form, 15 original Pepsi points, and a check for $700,008.50. Plaintiff appears to have been represented by counsel at the time he mailed the check. The check is drawn on an account of the plaintiff's first set of attorneys. At the bottom of the order form, the plaintiff wrote 1 Harrier jet in the item column and 7 million total points column. In a letter accompanying his submission, the plaintiff stated that the check was to purchase the additional Pepsi points expressly for obtaining the new Harrier jet as advertised by Pepsi Stuff commercial. On or about March 7, 1996, defendant's fulfillment house rejected plaintiff's submission and returned the check. In a later date, May 30, 1996, BBDO Vice President Raymond E. McGovern, Jr. explained to the plaintiffs that, I find it hard to believe that you are of the opinion that Pepsi Stuff commercial really offers a new Harrier jet. The use of the jet was clearly a joke and was meant to make the commercial more humorous and entertaining. In my opinion, no reasonable person would agree with your analysis of the commercial. The judge at this point explained the procedural history and posture. There were 2 lawsuits. First, brought by PepsiCo seeking a declaratory judgment stating that it had no obligation to furnish the plaintiff with a Harrier jet. The second, brought by Leonard, seeking to enforce the PepsiCo alleged contractual commitment to provide him with a Harrier jet in return for the Pepsi points and cash equivalent that he had tendered. The general rule is that the advertisement does not constitute an offer. The restatement, second of contracts, explains that advertisements of goods by display, sign, handbill, newspaper, radio, or television are not ordinarily intended or understood as offers to sell. The same is true of catalogs. Price listed in circulars, even through the term suggested bargains, may be stated in some detail. It is of course possible to make an offer by advertisement directed to the general public, but there must ordinarily be some language of commitment or some invitation to take action without further communication. Restatement second of contracts, B. Similarly, a leading treatise notes that it is quite possible to make a definite or operative offer to buy or sell goods by advertisement, in a newspaper, by handbill, catalog, or circular, on a placard in a store window. It is not customary to do this, however. The presumption is the other way. Such advertisements are understood to be mere requests to consider and examine and negotiate, and no one can be reasonably regard them as otherwise unless the circumstances are exceptional and the words used are very plain and clear. An advertisement is not transformed into an enforceable offer merely by a potential offeree's expression of willingness to accept the offer through and among other means, completion of an order form. In Mazzaros v. United States, for example, the plaintiff sued the United States Mint for failure to deliver a number of Statue of Liberty commemorative coins that they had ordered. When demand for the coins proved unexpectedly robust, a number of individuals who had sent their orders in a timely fashion were left empty-handed. The court began by noting the well-established rule that advertisements and order forms are mere notice and solicitation for offers which create no power of acceptance in the recipients. The spurned coin collector could not maintain a breach of contract action because no contract would be formed until the advertiser accepted the order form and processed the payment. Under these principles, the plaintiff's letter on March 27, 1996, with the order form and the appropriate number of Pepsi points constituted the offer. There would be no enforceable contract until the defendants accepted the order form and cashed the check. The exception to the rule, advertisements do not create a power of acceptance in potential offerees, is where the advertisement is clear, definite, and explicit and leaves nothing open to negotiation. In the circumstances, it constitutes an offer acceptance of which complete the contract. In Lefwitz, the defendants had published a newspaper announcement stating, Saturday 9 a.m. sharp, 3 brand new fur coats worth $100, first come, first serve, $1 each. Mr. Morris Lefowitz arrived at the store, dollar in hand, but was informed that under the defendant's house rules, the offer was open to ladies but not gentlemen. The court ruled that because the plaintiff had fulfilled all of the terms of the advertisement and the advertisement was specific and left nothing open to negotiation, a contract had been formed. The present case is distinguishable from Lefwitz. First, the commercial cannot be regarded in itself as sufficiently definite because it is sufficiently reserved the details of the offer to a separate writing, the catalog. The commercial itself made no mention of the steps a potential offeree would be required to take to accept the alleged offer of the Harrier jet. The advertisement in Lefwitz in contract identified the person who could accept. Corbin how Second, even if the catalog had included a Harrier jet among the items that could be obtained by redemption of Pepsi points, the advertisement of a Harrier jet by both television, commercial, and catalog would still not constitute an offer. As the Mazzaro's court explained, the absence of any words of limitation such as first come, first served, rendered the alleged offer sufficiently indefinite that no contract could be formed. A customer would not only have reason to believe that the shopkeeper intended to expose to the risk a multitude of acceptances, resulting in a number of contracts exceeding the shopkeeper's inventory. Farnsworth, Supra 242, there was no such danger in Lefowitz, owing to the limitation of first come, first served. The court finds in sum that the Harrier jet commercial was merely an advertisement. The court now turns to the line of case upon which the plaintiff rests much of his argument. In opposing the present motion, plaintiff largely relies on different species of unilateral offer involving public offers of reward for performance of a specified act. Because these cases generally involve public declarations regarding the efficiency or trustworthiness of specific products, one court has aptly characterized these authorities as prove-me-wrong cases. The most venerable of these precedents is the case of Carlyle v. Carbolic Smoke Ball Company. A quote from which heads plaintiff's memorandum of law. If a person chooses to make extravagant promises, he probably does so because it pays him to make them. And if he had made them, the extravagance of the promises is no reason in law why he should not be bound by them. Long a staple of law school curricula, Carbolic Smoke Ball owes its fame to the role of developing the law's unilateral offers. The case arose during the London influenza epidemic of 1890. Among other advertisements of the time appeared solicitations for the Carbolic Smoke Ball. The specified advertisement that Mrs. Cardhill saw and relied upon reads as follows. £100 reward will be paid by the Carbolic Smoke Ball Company to any person who contracts the increasing epidemic, influenza, colds, or any disease caused by taking cold after having used ball 3 times daily for 2 weeks according to the printed directions supplied with each ball. £1,000 is deposited with the Alliance Bank, Regent Street, shewing our sincerity in the matter. During the last epidemic influenza, many thousands Carbolic smoke balls were sold as preventatives against this disease, and there is no ascertained case where the disease contracted by those using the Carbolic smoke ball. Mrs. Carhill purchased the smoke ball and used as directed, but contracted influenza nevertheless. The lower court held that she was entitled to recover the promised reward. Affirming the lower court's decision, Lord Justice Lindy began noting that the advertisement was an express promise to pay £100 in the event that the consumer of the Carbolic smoke ball was stricken with influenza. The advertisement was construed as an offer as offering a reward because it sought to induce performance, unlike the invitation to negotiate, which seeks reciprocal promise. As Lord Justice Lindley explained, advertisements offering rewards are offers to anybody who performs the conditions named in the advertisement and anyone who does perform the conditions, accepted the offer. Because Mrs. Carlyle had complied with the terms of the offer yet contracted influenza, she was entitled to £100. Like carbolic smoke bomb, the decisions relied upon the plaintiffs involve offers of reward. Other reward cases underscore the distinction between typical advertisements in which the alleged offer is merely an invitation to negotiate for purchase of a commercial good, and the promise of reward in which the allegation offered is intended to induce a potential offeree to perform a specific action, often for non-commercial reasons. In Newman v. Schiff, for example, the Fifth Circuit held that the tax protester assertion that if anybody calls this show and cites any section of the code that says an individual is required to file a tax return, I'll pay them $100,000. Would have been an enforceable offer had the plaintiff called the television show to claim the reward while the tax protesters were appearing. The court noted that, like Carabolic smoke bomb, the case concerns a special type of offer, an offer for reward. In the present case, the Harrier jet commercial did not direct that anyone who appeared at Pepsi headquarters with 7 million Pepsi points on the 4th of July would receive a Harrier jet. Instead, the commercial urged consumers to accumulate Pepsi points and referred to the catalog to determine how they could redeem their Pepsi points. The commercial saw a reciprocal promise expressed through the acceptance of and compliance with the terms of the order form. As noted previously, the catalog contains no mention of the Harrier jet. Plaintiff states that he noted that the Harrier jet was not among the items described in the catalog, but this did not affect his understanding of the offer. It should have. Carabolic smokeball itself draws the distinction between the offer of reward in that case and the typical advertisement, which are merely offers to negotiate. As Lord Justice Bowen explains, it is an offer to become liable to anyone who, before it is retracted, performs the condition. It is not like cases which offer to negotiate, or you issue advertisements that you have got a stock of books to sell or a horse to let, in which the case is no offer to be bound by any contract. Such advertisements are offers to negotiate, offers to receive offers, offers to Schaefer, as I think some learned judges in one of these cases has said. Plaintiffs understanding the commercial is an offer must also reject because the courts find no objective person could reasonably have concluded that the commercial actually offered a consumer Harrier jet. In evaluating the commercial, the court must not consider the defendant's subjective intent in making the commercial, or the plaintiff's subjective view of the commercial offered, but what the objective reasonable person would have understood the commercial to convey. Rather, if we were talking about the objective, if it is clear an offer was not serious, then no offer has been made. What kind of act creates a power of acceptance and therefore an offer? It must be an expression of will or intention. It must be an act that leads an offeree reasonably to conclude that the power to create a contract is conferred. This applies to the content of the power as well as to the fact of its existence. It is on these grounds that we must exclude the invitation to deal or act of mere preliminary negotiation, and the acts evidently done in jest or without intent to create legal relations. An obvious joke, of course, would not give rise to a contract. On the other hand, if there is no indication that the offer is evidently in jest, and then an objective, reasonable person would find that the offer was serious, then there may be a valid offer. Plaintiff's insistence that the commercial appears to be a serious offer requires the court to explain why the commercial is funny. Explaining why the joke is funny is a daunting task. As the essayist E.B. White has remarked, humor can be dissected as a frog can, but the thing dies in the process. The commercial is an embodiment of what the defendant appropriately characterized as zany humor. In sum, the plaintiff's demand cannot prevail as a matter of law. First, the commercial was merely an advertisement, not a unilateral offer. Second, the tongue-in-cheek attitude of the commercial would not cause a reasonable person to conclude that the soft drink company would be giving away fighter planes as part of a promotion. For the reasons stated above, the court grants the defendant's motion of summary judgment.